Big up every kitty shot. When me fly go England, Europe, me have fun can done. But everybody know, ain't no place like home. Me don't know about you.
Good morning, good late morning. I am late and I apologize for our tardiness. Sometimes the situations beyond our control, but it's better late than never. I believe in that saying a very long time ago, but I do have to apologize for people who are sitting and waiting to hear the program and we are not ready yet, or people who are tuning in. People always complain, oh, I've tuned in and after 10, 15 minutes I would have left. I apologize this morning. It's situation, circumstances beyond your control. It's a beautiful Friday here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It is a beautiful Friday morning. The sun is out in all its glory. There's a beautiful breeze. That's what happens here in St. Kitts. I think we're blessed with perfect weather, and sometimes we're not even grateful for that. Sometimes we don't even take time to notice how blessed we are. There's some countries who are right now, the people are living in certain conditions that are inhumane. Floodings are still taking place. People who are having tsunamis, that's in the Tonga Islands. You have earthquakes, you have floods, hurricane system, and we here have to count our blessings. My name is Sandra Quilliatterton. It's time for Your Views. Your Views is a program that is aired on WINN FM every Friday morning at 10 o'clock. This morning we are late. It's a program where, just like I said, you can call in and you can talk about things that affects you, not just in St. Kitts, but worldwide, in diaspora, and, any topic that you find that is necessary to discuss, it's a topic of importance. So we can talk about anything. This morning we are going to reflect. It's Reflections Friday. Today's the day we're going to take and we're going to start look at where we are and how grateful we should be. And those are the things that we have to start looking at. First, I have to send my condolences to the family of Rockefeller who have been laid to rest this week. It is a man who would have done so much for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. He's a man who said it exactly like how he saw it, and is a man that has been widely and greatly appreciated. And I have appreciated him. He's a person you could talk to. I mean, what I said, I like him because you never have to question what Rock is thinking because he says exactly how he feels. And, I would say condolences to his family. Mariah, she's my daughter's friend. I know how difficult it is to lose a parent, and especially a good one. But times like these, it's like that. We have a whole village, a country that you have shoulders to lean on. For those of you who would have lost other loved ones, I want to say condolences to you. And those who have brought new ones into the world, I want to say congratulations to you. And those of you who are celebrating birthdays, who have celebrated birthday for the month of October, I want to say congratulations to you. And anniversaries too, it's congratulations. It's a world that is deprived and void of love. We're seeing that is happening around us. Earth is really feeling it. We don't understand how toxic Earth is, and that is based on the energy that we put into Earth. We're seeing some situations where we have become a very violent nation. The world, as a matter of fact, we're looking at the situation right now in Ukraine. And like I said, there's certain things that we have to look at. We have to look at the situation. There's a threat of nuclear warfare. I don't know. I can't trust the news. Sometimes one would say one thing, another would say another thing, but we just have to report it just like you get it on the news. But you have to look at both sides of the story and see how you can come to a conclusion that makes sense. I mean, we saw where Russia would have annexed some of the little areas around in Ukraine and little countries in Ukraine. And as far as Russia is concerned, it belongs to Russia. And if anybody, in the event anybody should try to stop or fight to get them back, as Ukraine is trying to do, retrieve those that they would have lost, Russia is saying that they would use every force necessary. It is the nature of human, because we can see it right here. And I said to people that we have to be careful of the things that we say. We have seen a wave of violence in St. Kitts and Nevis where people, we have had, I want to look back in time. Yeah, we had murders. People would kill somebody, and it would be a talk for months. It's something that you think about, even for years to come, because it's a topic that you would discuss, because it was not normal. But now it's very normal for people to just walk up to you and have a problem, and they would just stab. I mean, I could understand a man pull a trigger, but to walk and stab somebody, it's unheard of. Again, it's tough for the people who suffer the loss, and it's tough for the person who would have done what she would have done. She has a child, she's a mother, she's somebody's daughter. Sometimes things happen. People have the stories. I don't listen to stories because every story have certain sides. People would know what people were even thinking, and they would relate to what the person was thinking the time when it happened. I see that. This video taping of situations and posting them on social media, I think it has to stop, though, because I find it's just so insensitive when one can look at somebody who's fighting for their life displayed on social media, and it becomes a topic. And we all, because we are such gossip mongers, we find it quite interesting, and it's something that we look at. Nobody's condemning it. Everybody, it's a juicy story, and I would advise people, please do not send stuff like that to my cell phone, because I do not like to see it. It's just the things that people take and make stories. It just irks me. But that is what we have become. Another thing we said, and I'm going to say to the leaders, we see this, and it happens where people are encouraged. We just came out of an election, and people touting get rid of them, and we see the violent nature coming out. You want to just get rid of everybody, and the Prime Minister is not doing it fast enough, and so there is a problem, and people are talking about it. Everybody's becoming labor because they're afraid of their jobs and job security. Everybody is becoming something or wants to be noticed, and they're doing things to even fit in. It's just not right. Everybody has a right to choose. Everybody has a right to vote for whoever they want to. They have to support. But at the end of the day, when a government is in power, you have to support the government in power. That's what it is. It's just after you would have voted, and the party who would have won have been sworn in, and they would have formed the government. You just have to respect the fact that this is a new government, and you just have to respect it. But people should not be worried and fearful of what is going to happen to them. The ordinary man, yes, there are certain people who are in sensitive positions who definitely cannot be there and should not be there. But guess what? What happened then is going to continue to happen now. And that is what it is, the politics. And we talk politics 365 days a year. I mean, it's just, I don't understand when we are going to stop. We are going to heal. We are going to embrace each other, recognizing it doesn't matter which side you're on. It matters that we are all citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. And at the end of the day, we have to live. We have to live together. We have to live in love. Earth is toxic. And that, I said like earlier before, it happens because of the energy that we are putting forward, that we are expelling into Earth, and it's posing issues. We are hearing, I don't know how in tune you are to what is happening in the world. It's not, sometimes I tune out, because I wonder if we're here in St. Kitts and Nevis are aware of the challenges that the world is facing right now. We are on the brink. If not, we're going to recession. We're still plagued with diseases like COVID-19. We see so many children out of school now because there are little viruses that are going on, little bugs that are going around. You can't see, you give it a name and you're constantly giving them names, but it's just like business as usual. We're walking, we're going through, we're not even preparing. We're seeing all of the floods. We saw what Ian did to parts of the Caribbean and into Miami, part of the U.S., we are seeing that. We are not taking into consideration the destruction of crops, and that is our food supply. We are seeing what is happening in Ukraine and Russia. 85% of the grains are produced by these countries. We are not looking at the fact that these are not producing anymore. We are hearing about the gas shortage, the problems that they're having with Russia and oil, and the sanctions that are placed on them, and they're not allowed to sell to certain, and they're not allowed, and America is not buying from. Europe is not buying from them. We are not looking at the consequences of this and how it's going to affect us here in the small islands. It is going to have an effect on us. And so these are the discussions we're supposed to be having of how are we going to prepare. You listen to the talk shows and you listen to the interviews, and we're not hearing what are we planning, how are we going to address situations like these. We have to start making preparations for this, because we are all citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. The government is not just responsible for people who voted for Labour, but they're responsible for all. And so we have to start thinking about what are we going to do. We look at the situation with the water supply, and these are the problems that we're having. Information is not forthcoming. What is really the problem? I mean, you hear where the wells went too low, and then you have that dirty water, brackish water seeping through. I don't know, so I cannot report it. Information, like I said, is not forthcoming. You can hear it if you're on social media. You have somebody's version of what is happening. It is not something that we are supposed to be glorying or happy about. All of us are going to be affected, and these are the things that affects me most, where people are waiting to see the government fall and fail. When a government fails, all of us have problems. I want to see this government do well, because when the government does well, it means all of us are going to benefit. In the event the government cannot do what it's supposed to do, then of course we're going to ask that the government is replaced by somebody who can do it. But in the meantime, we all have to support. It has ever happened. The people would have voted overwhelmingly. Labour is in power. We just have to respect the fact that they're there and hope that they're going to right the wrongs that the previous administration, according to them, would have done. And we are going to see how we can move on as a nation, how we can build as a nation. Our focus is on the CBI money. I've said that. I've asked a question and it floored me. How many passports, give me an estimation of about how many passports would have been sold to CBI. And I am so still floored. Over 30,000 passports have been sold in the CBI program. The ordinary man doesn't understand what that means. We are enjoying the monies of CBI. And we have been doing this for years. Over almost 30 years we've been doing this, where we have depended heavily on the CBI monies. When are we going to create an environment, an economy that can basically stand on its own, not dependent on one thing? We have to build our tourism industry. We have to build our agriculture industry. We have to find other industries that we can build on. We see where the factories are closing. Some of them have closed already and some are closing now. And that was a source of income for over 300 people. And you have to find some way of placing these people. And so, again, we are seeing where we have to depend heavily on the CBI program. We are seeing what is happening. We've seen outside in the outer world where you have the Chinese are coming and taking over. And we can see that happening here more sooner than later. And we are not learning from other people's experience. We want to reinvent the wheel. I suppose we want to experience it ourselves. We see the government would have changed. The people who would have gotten the lands under the previous administration, and there's a hole on it. Why? The lands are for us, the locals. It matters not who you support. And that is a problem that I have. People are complaining, Sandra, but I didn't get, but then you can't talk to me. Ask the people who are in power. The lands are for the locals. So if Labour is in power, then only Labour people are supposed to get land. If Unity is in power, only Unity people are supposed to get land. This has to stop. We have to make sure that our citizens are looked after. We have to stop looking at this party politics thing, who should benefit and who should not. Listen, don't get me wrong. Whoever you want put on boards, you put on boards. Whoever you want to place, you place. But I realize that you are going to the grave and you're picking up people who are so close to the grave and you're putting them in positions, and young people are still not being positioned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them doesn't make a difference. When the older ones are coming back, advising, they cannot advise in times like these. We are in an era of technology. People who were born in the 60s, I'm going to go back to the 60s and 70s, we are way behind time. The young people are very much in tune. These are the people who we have to look to for the future. I understand we need some experienced people at the helm. And I do understand that sometimes because of the fact that it's a new, and an inexperienced ministers who have formed the government, I do understand that you need some experienced advisors who are going to advise you on what to do. But when you're bringing back people who can hardly walk in high shoes, you're bringing back people who can hardly stand, and you're putting them in position. It is, I mean, you complain about the previous administration doing that, and then now you're doing it. What is happening to the young people? Yeah, people are sitting and they're waiting, and everybody felt that because I've supported, I'm supposed to get something. The government has to start to look at the small business sector. It's an area that needs to be, you need to be given a boost. You need to give financial support so that people can start becoming their own bosses. People can start developing their small businesses and stop heavily depending on government. We look at the PAP program. Over 7,000 people is on PAP. And that is one of the reasons why I say that, I mean, it's PAM, Labour, CCM, all walks of life that was on PAP program. The government is going to find it difficult. Of course, it would not be as difficult when you look at some 2 and 3 people in a family household was getting PAP, which was wrong. These are the people that you can wean off. But the others, they're people who really depend on PAP. They're all the people who are just depending on a $400 from Social Security. That cannot help them to live in these times. So it's the difficulty of getting people off. I mean, I'm going to ask, have a heart, man. People you're placed, and I see people who are placed in position now who complained about their treatment that they were getting under the former administration, and they're in there doing the same thing. So I ask the question, is it right or is it wrong? Or is it right based on who's doing it, or wrong based on who's doing it? If we're going to make noise and say that, and that is one of the reasons why we got rid of them, or you got rid of them, and you're going in and you're going to do the same thing, why did you get rid of them in the first place? And this is a question you ask. We can't be going in, it can't be business as usual if it was so wrong then. And these are the problems that we are encountering. We are brothers and sisters. Some of my family would have voted for Labour, some would have voted for Unity, some would have voted, and it happens like that. But then you see there's some people who are lucky, because they could have played the part of saying that they support the unity construct. They're placed in big positions. And then when the government changed, lucky for them, they have family members on that side, so they're not affected. So they're always eating from the trough or drinking from the trough. And that is what it is. And we have to move away from that nonsense about who you vote for. It's about whether or not you're qualified for the position. People who are not qualified for the position should not be in the position. And I say it and I mean it. I've said it before. If you're not qualified for the position, you should not be in the position, whether or not you voted or supported a political party. And that is the problem that the government would have had. Because people feel, because based on their support, they are entitled. And Honorable Prime Minister, that is your grief. Because that is what is happening. People are not supporting a government because the government is right for all aspect, or booming, a boost in the economy and making sure that everybody has a job. Nope. That's not what they're there for. They're voting and they're campaigning because of how they are going to benefit. And you would have seen it, where people would have benefited in big ways, bigly, according to Trump. And they're still there benefiting bigly. And these are the problems that I have. And that's when the Attorney General said he's going to shame or persecute. My thing is, if you have enough information, if you have enough evidence, it's not about shaming. It's about making an example. Because some people, if you're a dishonest person, you have no shame box. So I am saying to you, do not shame, prosecute. I've seen it over the years. I've heard it over the years where we're saying, oh, this government is doing all manner of evil, all corruption. And when the government forms, take office, the new government that we would have voted for, take office, we can't see any evidence of corruption. We are seeing the ordinary man who's been exposed, a business owner who would have applied for a position. I give you my price. It matters not. You have to make the decision whether or not you're going to take my price. But I don't expect when I charge you X amount of money that information is going to be made public. Because the government has a right to accept or decline. And this is what you're saying is the ordinary man. The ordinary man was not elected to office. We want to hear what the corruption of the elected members. That is what people want to hear. Because these are the people who we voted in office. These are the things that we want to hear. The petty things about picking up tractors, not having an understanding of the transaction that took place. And it's unfair when things are being done in the public, for the public to notice without an explanation. And then you start blaming permanent secretaries when you don't have the information. It's not right. When you're doing these things, the proper information should come out. How did the tractors reach where they were? Who gave them permission? Why? And we are ordinary people, and all ordinary people, just like you, are looking for something to do. Everybody is trying to benefit. And so don't come and point fingers because you think that you're holding it down. We don't know what happened behind the scenes. And a lot of people who benefited behind the scenes will come out and say they didn't benefit. So when is it wrong? When is it wrong? Anybody can come out and say, no, I'm not doing it, until you go in and you realize it is the same thing as being done. Let's look at the peace program. If you say that there were corruption in the peace program, monies were going into areas that it should not have. The peace program has been paid in August, September, we are now in October. Are we paying out the same amount of money that was allotted? Then if that is so, then nothing was wrong with it. If that is not so, then come out and say how much money you've paid in the month of August and September in opposed to what was paid before. And we can do our own analysis if it's taking you that long to analyze. Because there are a lot of things that people are not aware of. You support blindly political parties. You support blindly not just the political party, but leadership and members of the political party. You don't know what's happening all over. People are satisfied with the crumbs from the table. And then we feel that the country is running good because we were not getting anything and we are able now to get something. And that is how people, the ordinary man, would make, that's the analysis. Oh, I wasn't getting any under them and I'm getting under these, so these are better than those. We don't know of corruption in high places. We don't know who get money under the table. We don't know about the exploded invoices where one is told a job costs $1 million and they will tell you, write the invoice for $2 million. You're paid your $1 million and you're happy. You don't know what happened to the other $2 million. And let me tell you all, it is happening, it has happened, and it's going to continue to happen. We are human beings, and it's the nature of humans. Why do you think people are fighting to go in there? And at the end of the day, we are going to criticize what others would have done. And we get in there, and we are going to do the same thing. We hear people who would have voiced the corruption, and now they're benefiting, and they hush. We are seeing people who wore PLP shirts, and now they're wearing the Labour shirts. It shows it's an opportunity. Everybody wants an opportunity. So, we know it's going to continue. Let's see how the country in itself is going to benefit, because all of them are going to do it. It's the nature of humans. It's an opportunity to make yourself better. They're not going to take into consideration they were once working for $5,000 and $8,000 and they can now work for $15,000 a month. That's not it. That's not it. You would have had proof of people who would have done otherwise, and they're still there. We put them back there. And so I'm saying, don't create an impression because you know you're doing it. So don't go out and create an impression. Bring change. It's not about changing politicians. It's about changing systems. I admire the AG, and I've heard him talk about the anti-corruption policies that they're going to put in, freedom of information and integrity in public life. And I would love for that to happen so that you can have the information to know what they had before they went in and see what they would have accumulated during the time that they were there. Not while they're in there 2 years after. I would love to see what they have had before they went in. Because sometimes you see people who are struggling to pay their mortgage. And when they get in, they come up with 7 and 8 homes. And you're in there for a short time. And then nobody's asking the questions because then you go in and you have people who are fronting for you. These are the things that happen inside. And I'm just realizing, I used to think that people were honorable men and women. I was totally fooled. And there are a lot of people who you see inside there who playing like they don't know what's going on. Trust me, they're multimillionaires and they're working for an ordinary salary. Because of course money pass. And somebody got to get hush money because money has to pass to a certain message. Let me tell you, we talk about schemes, but you don't know how many schemes are run in government. Lots. I started to talk to people and having an understanding of what goes on in there. You need people who genuinely, how are you going to find them, who are genuinely interested in people? Like I said, I'm going to give Dr. Joe a chance to prove himself. He's new. He doesn't have a history of corruption in government because he's just finding position there. So in all fairness, you can't judge him until he would have done what he had to do. And as I said, people, give him 6 months. And then you can start talking. I'm not going to talk anything negative about anybody when they haven't had a chance to prove themselves yet. But we have to look based on the promises and the timeline in which these promises were made, and we're going to see where we're going to go, where that is concerned. It is what it is. Politics is politics. Politicians are who they are. When you are divided, it makes them stronger. And so I'm going to talk to the electorate. We have to stop this abusing. You go on social media and it's everybody who's abusing. Talk about the issues, not personalities. There are lots of issues, burning issues that one can talk about. They're there. But every time you try to say something, not me, I really don't care. Somebody's going to come on and they're going to attack you personally. Like I said, I don't care. Propaganda, they come up with all kinds of stories that are not true. But people who comes up with stories is because you want, basically, is to divert attention. And that's what it is. This world needs love. And we have to start become aware of what is happening around us. The world is not the same. We hear about climate change. We don't know what it is, but we are seeing that there's a difference. People are recording the highest temperature. You're recording most rainfall, wettest time. Australia is complaining about it, the wettest time in history. You see the floods, they're coming. You hear about the glaciers, they're melting. Antarctica is melting. We are not asking when this happened, what is going to happen. A lot of us are not informed. We have to start to teach people how to prepare for things that are going to come. St. Kitts is a party place. Everything is about party. And every time you want a party, it's a new outfit. We have to start to save up and buy and put away. Because more sooner or later, it's not going to happen. We could talk about agriculture and we have our own, we can depend on our own. But like I said, the areas who would have produced food doesn't have the ability to do so now because the rain has come. The crops have been washed out. Drought has come. There's no crops coming. So we have to start to find ways of means of preparing, saving our foods so that we'll have something to look forward to. We've had the Taiwanese here. I thought that by now we would have had a factory set up. We have all the fruits showing how to dehydrate and how to store foods for a prolonged period of time. I thought that is why they were here, and we were supposed to learn from them. These are industries that we can create because we now realize where the world is going. We realize the foods that we're eating are poison. They're not foods. These are foods were designed and made in lab. They have chemicals in there to preserve them, and the chemicals are killing us. Cancer is on the rise. Everybody from no respect of person, children, adults, teenagers, everybody. It's shocking at the rate in which cancer is taking over our place. A Caribbean island like St. Kitts and Antigua, and we are in the Caribbean. We have fruits and vegetables that we grow on our own. But why are we so affected still by all of this cancer? Every second, I have a friend who does natural medicine, and I mean, everybody is calling. Oh, my aunt, they have cancer. Cancer is a big thing right now. It is the stress, the conditions under which we're working, all of that mold, that most of those moldy buildings that people are not paying attention to, the foods that we're eating, the pollution. You can't find parking space in St. Kitts. Your time in waiting for the light and getting out of a line is extremely long. Once again, it was zoom, 3 minutes from me from home to town. Now, that has changed. The world is changing. St. Kitts is changing. We are life is, we are adapting to American lifestyle. The children are talking like Americans. The slangs, the dress codes. I mean, all of our young men, it's so difficult to find a decent young man for your daughter that you would have raised. They are smoking, pants halfway down their bottom, the American lifestyle, the language they use, you can't even understand it. That is where we are. That is where we are right now. We are in a situation that we are not paying attention to. And it's escalating. And that is one of the things with us. We are not proactive, we are very reactive. We see things and we don't say, okay, let's start nipping that. No, we wait until it has escalated into something big, and then we're going to talk about it. You heard about the situation with the 3-year-old boy that was mauled or killed by a pit bull, and everybody talking about, we've been raising pit bulls for the longest while. But we are only going to talk about it now that something would have happened. And that is the nature of human. We know that it can happen. But yet still, we are going to create an environment, and we're going to continue to build on the environment. And when it happens, then we're going to talk about it. That is who we are. That is exactly who we are. We are very reactive and not proactive. I'm going to open the lines. It's a pity we started late, so I'm going to give you 10 minutes. If there's any information that you want to give or you want to be a part of the topic and you want to call in and you want to talk about it, let's have the discussion. But let us focus, let us reflect on who we are and where we are. If you want to call in, the numbers are 7620989, 6620989, or 4660989. Those are the number that you can call if you want to be a part or you want to just say something on the program. If you have information that you can talk about, let's talk about it. But we're going to keep it brief because we have 12 minutes to do so because the program started late. But again, let's look about what happened. Nobody seemed to know. Well, I heard people talk about the situation that transpired with a young lady that was stabbed to death, or stabbed and succumbed to her injuries or injury. I'm not sure. I don't know what it is. We are looking at what happened. For me, I look at situations like this and say, it is not normal. What can we do to avoid or prevent a reoccurrence of a situation like this? What can we do? What do we do? Instead of having a discussion about it and start talking about, oh, what that one was and who this one was, and you talk ill of the person who would have done it, and the best thing you could have talked about the dead. And I mean, what can we do to avoid situations like this? What can the government do? There are lots of troubled young people walking around. There are lots of young people who are not working. There are lots of people who are just idle. I've heard stories, and you can't believe that these things are happening in St. Kitts and Nevis. All young women, they are living a life that, for me, it's not in good standings to what we're accustomed to. We have men who are taking advantage of our young women. We have young women who do not have any self-esteem or value for themselves. We have young women who are struggling to survive. There are parents who neglected, and young women who had to look after their siblings at an early age and was deprived of an education. We have to come up with ways and means of how we're going to help them. We have to come up with ways and means of how we are going to see how they can find within themselves self-worth, because you can't force it on somebody. They have to find it within themselves. We can do this with proper programs. We listen to some of the call-in programs, and people, it's for entertainment, and you listen to the topics that are discussed, and the contribution that are made by some of the people on the panelists, and you want to know, why are we airing things like these? Why? We already living in a toxic environment, and we need positive things. We want properly organized forums where we can have discussions of where we are and how we can push ourselves forward. Of course, there's some positive ones out there, but yet still everybody's looking for entertainment. They're tuning into a show because it's juicy. The propaganda is there. Everything is to what they want, and that's why they tune in. Let's go to the phone lines and take this call. Caller, you're live on Your Views.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Okay, on the topic you're on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Certain topics that we talk about one. As a friend, I want to ask you before, you will see your friend and her boyfriend fighting and don't part?
Of course not. I would part. Your friend is your friend. You're supposed to...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's been on the Facebook and WhatsApp and so, and the status then. What are you going to part for? And then tomorrow you see them together again?
That's the sad part.
Is that your part for?
Exactly.
Because you want to see them again living happy.
Very good.
Now, you want to be going to your friend's funeral.
Wow.
So you ain't partying because you say, oh, and tomorrow they again? That's stupidness.
It is.
I mean, you is not the friend. You see me and my friend, I mean, somebody and my friend fighting. I am trying my best to part.
If I see two people fighting, they don't have to be my friend. I would part. Because at the end of the day, you're
anybody, but I'm just talking about, the incident, what happened.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. That's the sad part about it.
So that's sad because you ain't on part, but you take out your phone.
And you're going to videotape.
To say like you get the full speaker what happened.
Wow.
And we cannot live like this anymore. It's like nobody care. It's like a cockroach dead and that's it. That's how human being getting right now,
Yep.
It's like that cockroach and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the place is getting scary.
Yep.
So it's like coming like it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Once ain't nobody close you or to you, you ain't gonna feel no way, and that's a bad sign.
But it's getting closer, eh? Because it's getting close. For those of you
getting closer to everybody,
it's getting closer to everybody. It is true.
Yeah, anyway, I like this show and it's late, so I want to give somebody else a do. Give thanks.
Thank you for your contribution. It's
situation. No worries, always listen, you man. You're nice.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, it's what it is, and it's a sad thing. I like what the young man said. I mean, life is like your human lives is just like looking at a cockroach lying down on its back. People, and it's frightening. It scares me, and that is why I talk about topics like this, because it's scary. I mean, you see people, and you see a man or somebody got knocked down. You're not going to try to see how you can help. The first thing you pull out is your phone, and you start to tip. Why are you doing that, though? Why are you doing that? I saw a young child. You know what I saw? That makes me sick to my stomach. I saw she couldn't be more than 5-year-old. I saw a 5-year-old child taking his a brother or sibling, I don't know what it is, 3 years to school. And you ask yourself the question, what craziness is this? Walking holding hand, no parents inside. And this little girl is taking her sibling to school. She's no more than 5. We have to stop situations like this. And those of you who are looking for somebody to pick up your child, a number you can call is 663-0429. It's a pickup service. She can hold your child. She would hold your child for 2 hours. She would help with their schoolwork. She would have entertainment for them, supervised entertainment, and then a snack would be served. And when you come from work, you can pick up your child. And not having your child home by itself, you see things happen, fires happen, children are trapped in the homes. We don't know what is happening into a lot of these homes, A lot of these homes, we only find out when something would have happened. And these are the blind eyes that we turn to situations like these. We are very reactive. But situations like this should never happen. I saw a little boy, I see it advert on social media, lost. Every time, lost. You can't leave your child up to chance. The parents who has to work, and you'd understand that, the parents who have to work. But you have to make arrangements so that your child can be picked up. I can give you the number again, 663-0429. It's a service where you can pick up your child. If you have problems dropping your child to school at mornings, it's a service that can drop your child, pick up your child, drop your child to school. And it's a secured service. So if you want information about it, you call the number that I just gave you, 663-0429, and you ask the question and see whether or not the service is suitable for you. But we have service in place that we have to use. Do not leave your children up to chance. That is a big problem that we're having here. And you always hear people complain, or you look on social media and you see this girl has been lost, missing. Little boy missing. What is a child of 8, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? Primary school children should not be walking home from school on their own. I don't care. We are not living in that kind of world anymore, where you had organized groups, where you come down in organized groups. We're not living in that era anymore. And we have to be very careful about the things that we are doing today, because it is posing some issues. We can't live today like we lived yesterday. Because when you look at the future, you realize that the life that we live today, we would not be able to live it tomorrow, because things are changing, and they're changing rapidly. For the young man who would have called in and contributed to the program, thank you for calling in. And for those of you who are listening, thank you for listening. Later on, I suppose, one of these days when you have information, you two can call in and we can have the discussion. We're running out of time. It's an unfortunate situation. It's 11 o'clock. My time is basically up, but I'm going to tell you another problem that we're having. If you're listening to the news, you'll realize that COVID-19 is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's mutating, and we have opened up our borders. We are mandatory. We don't have to use the mask anymore, but I do hope that we can still continue the practice of hand sanitizing. We see children are out of school with strange viruses. We hear about their hand-mouth disease. We know, and if you see what monkeypox looks like, I think you would start taking the necessary precautions. It's out there. We cannot deny the fact that it's out there. We don't know how we got there. We do not understand the solutions for it. But we know that we cannot predict, but we can prepare. So let's start to make sure that we maintain the protocols. That is hand sanitizing, social distancing, and making sure that if you don't want to wear your mask, you have to make sure you maintain that 6 feet apart. It's Friday. It's a day where people tend to distress. You have had a rough week. Monday is stressful. Right now until Friday, it's a day that you let your guards down. You go out and you start, have a drink or two. But make sure that when you're drinking, you are not driving, and you drink responsibly, because sometimes under that we've seen that when people are under the influence and not in total control of themselves, they can wreak havoc in the areas that they're in. And so be careful. We are seeing reckless driving. I'm asking drivers, those motorcyclists who wants to pop wheelie in the middle of traffic, I ask that you take things into consideration, that you are endangering other people's life, and that you have to be a little more careful. The areas that you want to pop wheelie, you find that where there's no traffic, you can do that, but you can't do that in and out of vehicles. We see you lying on the side of the road, and I'm going to promise you that if I see that happen, I would not pick you up, because ignorance is no excuse, and when you want to play stupid, it can very well be you. My name is Sandra Quilliatis, it was a pleasure being here with you. Look forward to doing this again next week. Friday, stay tuned to WINN FM 98.9. Voices is up next.
Think it's bad. Me no know what them a talk about. When them say it's mad. When everywhere in the world have problem, everywhere need God. Tell them easy no man. From your love think it's bad. Come take a look. More food to eat and cook. More places to see than you read in a book. If you're ready for a good time, let the good vibes steal your heart like a cook. But look, don't trouble or you'll get shook. Take it sweet, you'll get hooked.